Hey guys, welcome to another episode 2 of All Queued Up, Mission Start's unofficial Netflix podcast. Of course, I am your host, Greg Dietz, and I have with me my co-host, Josh Fisher.
What's up?
Today we are going to be talking about 2 animated shows on Netflix. Voltron Legendary Defender, Season 4 just came out, which consists of 6 episodes. And we'll be talking about the entire series. Also kind of discussing the differences between the original and the new. No comparisons, though, just talking about it, the differences, because I don't like that, normally. I'll get to that when we talk about it. The second show we're going to be talking about is the Magic Schoolbus Rides Again, the revamped 13-episode series from, God, I want to say the early 90s, maybe mid-90s?
I think it was mid to late 90s. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'll pull it up on Wikipedia to get the information when we go talk about it. But we're going to start with Voltron. So Voltron, Legendary Defender, if you don't know, is a continuing series on Netflix that is animated by DreamWorks Animation and World Events Productions. It is animated by Studio Meyer. To give a little bit of background as to what they've done in the past. They've done The Legend of Korra, some Lego stuff. Oh, they even did Last Airbender, so there's that. And geez, now that I know that, it shows, like, 100%. But the series is, to an extent, a reimagining of what the original show was. The idea is that 5 Earthlings get kind of thrust into this intergalactic war. And they have to learn how to use these giant lion-based robots, or mechs, I should say, and they can form together to form Voltron, which is this massive humanoid-looking mech that just wrecks everything. Now, as I stated before, it's based off of is it 70s, Josh?
It was very late 80s, or very early 80s, I'm sorry. The original series from Japan was called Beast King Go Lion.
Oh, wow.
And Toei Animation did the animation of the series. And when they wanted to bring it to America, they had plans to do 3 robot series, and each of them would be a Voltron. And they did Dairugger XV, which was the vehicle Voltron, which was Voltron 1. Then they had Voltron 2, which was a Gladiator Voltron, which was just 3 humanoid robots that formed one giant 6-armed humanoid mech, which never aired because they never finished it because of a few reasons. I'll just touch on that right fast and we'll go. And then Voltron 3, that was the Lion Force Voltron, which was the most popular in America. They wanted a certain animation from a series because, back then they just went to the animation departments. They said, hey, send us this, and we'll redub it and make our own, our own stories and everything. And they said, okay, which ones did you want? And they said Dairugger, the Gladiator one, and the Lion one. So the one they wanted had like this big orange and yellow lion crest on the chest, and then they sent them the Beast King Go Lion instead, which worked out because they said, hey, this one looks really cool. The stories, and back then it was a lot more violent than it was in the, there was cannibalism and slavery and
wow.
Yeah, it's really, I highly recommend it if it's on Crunchyroll too.
I know that like a lot of animes, for example, Dragon Ball Z was one of the big ones that I watched as a kid. And I remember the first time I ever discovered that the original Japanese voices were a lot harsher was when I bought the Battle with Broly. I don't remember the name of that one, but we had watched it in English, and in the very opening scene, Goku's throwing Kamehamehas into the ocean, and Master Roshi's just like, I would stop if I were you, you're going to cause tidal waves. And Goku's just like, it's fun, no big deal. And then in the Japanese version, it's the same situation. Roshi's like, "Stop it, you idiot!" And Goku's just like, "Shut up, old man. I know what the fuck I'm doing." It was drastically different. And I remember experiencing that, and I've gone through time, gone back and said and looked at like how Japanese culture is so different when it comes to their media versus ours, and how we perceive animation to be for kids. Where I would love to watch the original Japanese versions of what we consider Voltron, just to see that difference, because that sounds amazing.
It's a vast difference, when the Americanized version, some things were reanimated and a lot of animated sequences were cut in and reused a lot. Like they used robots instead of actual people. A lot of the violence was edited out and toned down, but the premise was a little bit different too. In the original Japanese version, Voltron was a sentient being who became so arrogant that he challenged a goddess, and she's like, no, and she cursed him and split him up into 5 mechanized robots.
Okay, all right.
Yeah. Yeah. And in the Americanized version, is like, okay, he was a powerful weapon who was hit with a magic spell by Hagar, the witch, and separated him into the 5 lines, and he was hidden. And what I really enjoy about the new series, it's its own thing, and it pays homage to both the American version of the original Lion Force Voltron and Beast King Go Lion. It takes a little bit from both.
That,
like the 80s. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. I was going to say that was actually something that I thought was interesting, was from what I remember, because I didn't watch it a lot as an adult. I've seen a few episodes when I was a kid. As a matter of fact, I was probably like 24 years old, so this is probably about 10 years ago. I was talking to a bunch of friends about cartoons we watched as kids, and I remember going, there was an anime that I watched when I was real little, and everyone had a lion robot, and it was like Power Rangers, but it wasn't Power Rangers, it was all animated, and I just never remembered Voltron until like 6 or 7 years down the line when geek culture became such a huge thing in this country. That's when I it sunk into our just collective consciousness. So it's super fascinating to see this show come back. And I know that the way that this story is told it's very much for an American audience. I don't think that this version of Voltron would do super well in Japan. I could be wrong, and I hope I'm wrong, but the reason I say that is because it still feels like they are catering to a much younger audience.
They are definitely aiming it towards kids, but still giving it the nostalgic nod for the people that grew up on it.
And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. I think one thing that I'm really happy to have seen is that a lot of people aren't doing that classic, well, it's not like the original, so harumph. I'm seeing a lot more people just kind of like, this is awesome, this is so totally fun, and that's great, because we're going to get a lot of seasons. Something I want to ask you about the show that I think is really fascinating, and we will, in a moment, guys, we will get to the actual show. But the way that Netflix has been releasing these episodes is very bizarre. So the show's only been out for about 2 years now, but there's 4 seasons, because they release them every 6 months. And it seems like each season's getting less and less episodes. But
yeah,
each episode, like, here's why I like that.
They said there was a reason for it, but yeah, go ahead. And then
I don't know the reason, so if you know the reason, that's awesome. But what I was thinking was that each episode is so dense with information and content that watching the 6 episodes in season 4, I never felt like an episode was wasted or that an episode was just filler. Even the episode with the whole them putting on a show, like the Voltron show, which was the name of the episode, I still felt that the entire episode had merit and weight to it that was important to the overall story.
Yeah, that was I think the weakest of the season, and the only episode out of all 4 seasons that I really truly did not like a lot. But there were good thematic elements to it that really helped propel and move what they've done in this arc. But yeah, the reason when they originally released the series, it was, I'm wanting to say in June of last year, 2016.
Yeah.
And they dropped 13 episodes, 12 or 13 episodes in the first season.
13. It was 13 season 1, 8 season 2, 7 season 3, and now 6 in season 4.
Okay. And then it was January of this year when season 2 dropped. The reason why they have gone to a smaller episode release is so they can focus on getting content out on a more regular basis. About every 3 months, put out 6 to 7 episodes versus waiting 9-10 months for 12 new episodes.
And
that's why they wanted to do that.
Yeah, and that's such
I love his mind and keeps it popular, and it really helps move these things off the shelf.
Yeah, I was gonna say merchandise is huge for something like this, especially for kids, where like
or adult collectors like me.
Or adult collectors. Well, I also think that like what's super fascinating to me about like you said like every 3 months having 6 episodes is that is almost the exact same way that like network stations kind of have cartoons. You know, they have one episode every Saturday, and if, you know, they have 6 episodes, that's 2.5 months, and then maybe there's like a 2-week break, and then there's another, you know, set of episodes. So kids don't really ever notice that there's a break in between the animation cycles. Where with this, you could totally, I mean, it's right in your face because it's all like it's dropped in one brick. And so it's really fascinating to see how that dynamic works. But let's get into the show a little bit, the actual characters and arc and stuff. I thoroughly enjoy shows and art that is a continuous storyline. I'm not a big fan of like Monster of the Week type shows. I never can really get into them. And I think the reason I can't get into them is because I don't have something to look forward to next week. What's the monster next week doesn't really excite me. So having this narrative that stretches is so much fun. And so by like going into this, I was really worried that it was going to be like classic Voltron, where there was that one monster they fought like Power Rangers or Kamen Rider, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not like that at all. It's you know, they have the Golra they have to fight. They have the main bad guy of the Golra, which I can't think of his name. Zarkon, thank you, and kind of his son a little bit.
Lotor. I love Lotor.
Lotor, I think, like, first off, that final episode with what he did, like, that's going to have some serious ramifications within the galaxy.
I agree.
I really want to see Lotor and his people like team up with the good guys of the story, just because to me, when you tell the story, you need to have that risky dynamic that everyone takes, where
tension.
Yes, the tension. Oh my God! And that's what makes this show so palatable, is that the characters are realistic, like and realistic to an extent that, like, yes, a lot of the science stuff they talk about isn't, but the characters are. I like, the fat guy isn't just the bumbling fat guy. He actually has character and feelings, and there's something about him that's really cool. Like, he's caring, and he wants to be a cook. Like, adding all that shit to the character is so cool. Yes, he might be kind of written as a side character to an extent, to like Shiro or Keith, but I think he's just as important in terms of story. Like during that episode I was talking about, the Voltron show, when they totally kind of made fun of that idea of him being the fat bumbling farting guy. He wasn't cool with it.
No.
I was just like, that's really neat. Like, they didn't just make him okay with it or passive. They were like, no, he's got to have some kind of like character to this. Pidge being one of the more interesting characters in my book, because Pidge is a girl, but pretended to. This is a spoilery podcast.
I know.
But had to pretend to be a boy Mulan style to get to the position that she's in. And it wasn't until like she didn't have that position and she was just part of this team that was thrust upon them. She was just like, yeah, I'm a girl. And everyone was like, well, except for what's the guy's name? The one that's like the
Lance.
Lance, thank you. Yeah, Lance was the only one that wasn't necessarily 100% cool with it, but he got over it real quick.
Yeah, he was more in denial than anything. He was like, what? How can this be?
Yeah, he's but I think that's also what's fascinating is there's growth amongst the characters too.
Well, see, the original Pidge was not a female.
Right.
And had an annoying voice. But this Pidge, she's a really strong character, and I like the fact that, her name's just not really Pidge. That's a nickname that her brother gave her.
Yeah.
And she hated it, but adapted it and owned it once he had left on his expedition. And she's like, all right, you know what? I am Pidge. And I think she's a really strong and really interesting character.
She by far, like, that's what was so another thing I really like about the show, and I should mention this, is that the show does give stakes in regards to things will change, things can change. For example, at the end of the end of season 1. Yes, it was at the end of season 1. They all got separated, and respectively, the story with Lance and Hunk in the mermaid area. That's my weakest episode by far. That episode was so boring to me. But
it's probably the weakest of season 1, I think, or season 2.
Yeah, I was like, that was a season 2. But Shiro almost died, like straight up almost died in the beginning of season 2. And then by the end of season 2, he got separated from the entire group, and he didn't come back until the end of season 3. So
tail end of season 3.
Yeah. And so like the pilots of each lion has changed in some way. I mean, there's like Hunk and Pidge and Lance have all stayed with their lions, but
no, Lance changed.
Oh, he did change. That's right. Yeah, he did change. Damn it. So yeah, it's just Hunk
original. I'm sorry. The original lineup was Shiro piloted the black lion, Lance the blue lion, Keith the red, the Pidge the green, and Hunk the yellow. And because the lions kind of resonated with their temperament and their characteristics. And the original show, if you go back and see, Keith wore the red outfit, but he piloted the black lion. And Lance wore the blue outfit, but piloted the red. And it was Allura. The original character was Shiro in Go Lion, but he was Sven in the United States. And he actually got killed early in the season of the original. Like 7 or 8 episodes in, he got killed.
Wow.
And that's why Allura took over. But he had the black outfit, but piloted the blue line, and then Allura took over. So last season, in the season 3, when Shiro was gone, they're like, we can't form Voltron. We need somebody to pilot the Black Lion. And, when Shiro thought he was dying early in season 2, he's like, Keith, one day there's going to have to be somebody to take my place, and I want it to be you. You can do it. And he actually used the Black Lion to help Shiro. Well, when Shiro was gone, the Black Lion's like, I accept you. You are now my paladin. And then everybody shifted because the blue line Lance had to take over the red line. The blue line's like, nope, well, you're gone. And it was a nice throwback to the actual 84 Voltron team piloting the exact same lines. But it didn't stay that way, as we found out in season 4.
Yeah. Well, what I really like about the paladins or the characters changing lions in the way that they are, or like there's 6 characters now that can pilot lions, but there's only 5 lions. And what's so fascinating to me is that it's almost as if the writers were like, if we made an R-rated Voltron, characters would have died. 100%. Sure, probably would have been dead at this point. But instead, what they did was they had the character do something else and kind of adapt that to their character to where they were changed a little bit. Keith is a prime example of like, he didn't die, but he's not there. And that has a resonating factor on the entire team. And the dynamic and growth of the team in regards to that is so fantastic. Like, I totally get the idea of like killing off characters might be a little too much for a children audience, but by having the characters do this, like leave and come back and not quite be dead, but also dealing with certain like loss in a certain way, I think is really good for both the adults watching the show and the kids.
Yeah, because there's always the hope that, oh, well, this character is gone now. Hopefully they'll come back. And of course, if a kid is really into the character, they're going to go just absolute ape shit when the character comes back and be thrilled.
Yeah, what I don't want the writers to do is a Marvel situation where death is meaningless.
Mm-hmm.
It's so they're walking that line right now where that is the case, because certain characters that, like, even the bad guy, Zarkon, like, he's not dead. Spoiler alert. I like how we say spoiler alert after giving a spoiler.
Yeah.
But he's because he's not dead, and then none of the other paladins are dead. It's kind of like, okay, how big are the stakes? Like can we get an example of how actually big they are? The only character that I've actually seen full on die was that one blind character with Lotor that had the cat.
Mm-hmm. Marty, I think her name was.
Yeah, I don't remember, but she's the only character I've seen full on die, but she wasn't also a main character.
Yeah.
So it's
well, there's been other Galra officers that have been converted into row beasts who ended up dying, but yeah, as for like major character, well, this is more of a minor character death. There's been no major character deaths, but I think it's actually going to happen.
Yeah, I do too. I think season 5 and or 6 is going to have something major, but we'll see. And I'm really excited to continue watching this show because it's grabbed me. I'm always skeptical when I watch a show. I have a rule, which is if I watch a new show, I give it 3 episodes before I kind of like decide whether I'm going to continue watching it or not. And I remember when I watched season 1 of this show, I was like, the first episode got me. So kudos to them. Like, it's my recommendation for it is absolutely check it out. 100%. If you're into anime or Americanized anime, I should say, which is what this is. This is basically in the same vein as Last Airbender anime. Like, not quite anime, but enough. And really fun, interesting characters. I'd say one of my favorite characters, aside from Pidge, is Koran.
Koran?
Koran, yeah, sorry, Koran. Because he's voiced by Rhys Darby, who I think
I love Rhys Darby.
But also he is a genuinely fun and interesting character. You know, his entire race, like the entire
Alteans,
thank you. Almost said the princess's name. The entire Italian race is gone, and it's just Koran and the princess Alora. I'm terrible with names. You'll learn this through the podcast. I'm awful with names. Next episode, we're going to be talking about Stranger Things, and I guarantee you all the characters' names are going to be out of my head by the time we record this. Anyway.
Well, I've got 2 seasons of that to watch because I got to watch the first season by the time the second season comes out, so I can get ready for that. But
that'll be fun though. That show's super. I would honestly.
Yeah, I've been saving it for that purpose. I like.
Yeah, I would watch it with your daughter just to see what she thinks because it's very Goonies-esque.
Oh, excellent.
So, but anyway, but my recommendation for Voltron is it's. So we got Math is not my strong suit. It's a bunch of episodes. It's 4 seasons, but it doesn't take that long because each episode's about 22 minutes long.
I think we're up to 33 episodes now.
Yeah, I'm doing math right now. 34.
34. I know they're actually commissioned to do 77 episodes. So if they've got 34, they've got another, 43 episodes to go? So
yeah.
So that's another, if they keep doing seasons in 6 and 7 episode arcs and churning them out every 4 to 5 months or shorter, then, this time next year will be on like season 10.
Yeah.
But, yeah, just to, because I know we didn't really actually, a brief breakdown of season 1, 2, and 3, and then talk a little bit more about season 4 is like, season 1, these they were members of the Academy, the Alliance Earth Forces Academy, and Keith was a washout, kind of a lone wolf kind of thing. Shiro was on this expedition that had gone missing with Pidge's brother and father, and they were all feared dead. And Pidge is like, no, absolutely not. And Lance and Hunk and Pidge were the cadets. Lance is like, I'm the top dog around here now that Keith's gone. I really like their dynamic of each character, but big intergalactic upheaval. They're suddenly thrust into it. They become the Paladins, and they find out Zarkon, the leader of the Galra Empire, used to be friends with the king of the Alteans, King Alfor, Allura's father, and wiped out the Altean race. And she and Coran have woken up after a 10,000-year suspended animation, hypersleep kind of thing. And the lines are missing, and they bring this team together and train them to be the pilot. And then finally, at the end of season 1, they're ready, and they have the showdown with Zarkon, and they take Zarkon out. Or no, that was season 2, wasn't it?
Yeah, they didn't take him out until season 2.
They had the battle, but then at the end, their first major victory, they were trying to get back to the castle, and they're separated. And that's when they go into season 2. They become separated after becoming a team, and they're trying to find their way back to each other. They do, and they start, really trying to take it to the Galra Empire, step it up. And that's when they face Zarkon at the end of season 2, and they take him out. And at the end of season 2 is one of my very favorite things. Allura actually faces down or sees Hagar. And when her hood comes down, when they're having their showdown, she sees her and she's like, she's Altean. What? She's Altean. And then at the end of the battle, the Black Line, Shiro, he's facing down Zarkon. Zarkon's got the original Black Line Bayard. You find out he used to be the pilot of the original Black Line. The original pilot of the Black Line, I'm sorry. And he had control over it, and Shiro didn't have full control until finally at the end of season 2. And then they face off. Shiro takes down Zarkon, and then boom, Shiro's disappeared. Now we segue, and at the end of that, Hagar is putting Zarkon in this like suspended animation, and she steps out, and the door's closed behind her, and she just says to the guards, "Bring me Prince Lotor." And I was like, "Ooh," squealing, because I love Lotor, and he shows up in season 3. He's like, all right, my dad's, gravely wounded. I'm in charge now. And seems to come across as a guy who is like, okay, I'm your leader. I lead by example. I'll be down in the trenches with you right along the front lines. I wouldn't do anything I wouldn't ask any of you to do something that I wouldn't do for myself, or so it seems. And, a lot of people are rallying behind him. Hagar, in the meanwhile, she's trying to nurse his Archon back to health. Shiro's missing. They're struggling to find the new pilot for a pilot for the Black Line. Finally, as we mentioned earlier, Keith takes over the lines. They shift their alliance. Keith finds out he's half Galra and starts working with the organization, the Blades of Memora, and that led to some nice tension. I think that was late in season 2.
That was some of my favorite character development and whatnot.
Because Allura, she's like, the Galra wiped out my people, and now here's this person she's grown extremely close to and views as a very, very, very valuable friend and comrade.
Possibly.
And now she's like, you're half of everything I hate.
Yeah.
Who are you? How can I trust you? And, he's struggling to find answers. They're struggling. And even the others were like, wait, what? You're half of one of them? Oh, my God. And everybody was really standoffish for a while towards him, which really kind of helped, his whole, I'm not a leader. I've always been a loner kind of guy. And now he's like, but I'm still me. And they realized, he is still him and they need each other. He needed them as much as they needed him. But I really love how he's got this dagger, an artifact of the Blades of Memora, and working with that organization. And he's trying to find out more about his past, more about who he is. In season 3, Shiro, finally shows up. And the Black Line won't respect him anymore. So he's like, okay, I'm a field general now. Allura's the pilot, and I'll be, field general.
Yeah.
And I thought that was really cool, and that leads us up to season 4. And there were some things in season 4 that I really loved. There were a few things that I did not love.
Like what? Because I the stuff that I really enjoyed was Keith's arc with trying to be part of the Blades of Memora and still the pilot of the Black Lion.
Yeah.
But messing that up big time.
Mm-hmm. He's got this obsession with Lotor. He thinks Lotor is the ultimate. We stop Lotor, we stop the Galra. End of story. And he's obsessed. It is like, I cannot stop. This is everything. It's more important than anything. But yet they're like, no, we need to build this coalition. We're freeing these systems, all these oppressed people.
Yeah.
And we need to win them over to our cause and not just show that we're some oppressive regime like they've been under. He's like, yeah, but I can do this and do this, and he totally can't.
Right.
And when Shiro comes back, Shiro's back, but when Keith's not there and they need somebody, the Black Lion is like, okay, Shiro, hop in. And that's when Keith's like, all right, I'm not really part of the team anymore. We're just going to keep that secret. He's off doing his own thing in this massive spy network. And, Shiro's back piloting the Black Lion. What I really love, though, is the episode reunion, episode 2. When Pidge is, over the past 4 seasons, she has been trying to track down her brother Matt.
Right.
She's like, I know he's still alive. I know my father is still alive. I'm going to find them. And what, she's used every resource she's had available to try to find him. And when she does come across that one friend of her brother's, she's like, here's his signal code. This is how you can locate him. And she tracks him down on that planet, that one little planet, and it just turns out to be a mass graveyard. And she freaks out. And when she's running up to the marker that's supposed to be his marker, just the overwhelming feeling of failure and grief. And I was too late. I am so sorry. That whole emotion, the whole gamut of emotions she ran through there, I thought it was incredibly well handled and incredibly well done.
There are some super artistic shots where Pidge is kneeling in front of the grave, and they do this wide shot of the storm that's happening kind of in the background, and it's just a silhouette of her in front of the grave on top of a hill, and I'm just like, that's That's some good filmmaking.
And that was my favorite moment from the entire season. One of. And then her brother turns out to be alive. Yeah. And I was not happy with that. Because it ruined a beautiful moment. Yes, she's got her brother back. And now he's an ally of the team. And he is just as smart as she is. And now double brain power, they can really help figure out some situation. And it's kind of giving them a bit of an advantage. But I think the story would have been so much better served had they let him really be dead.
I honestly feel like it would... here's what I would have liked to have seen. Like, she comes to terms with the fact that he's dead. And then in the next episode, she's kind of like... She's sitting there, she's still grieving, but she sees some information. She sees that like code basically on the gravestone.
Mm-hmm.
And then she heads to the location, and it turns out Matt is still dead, but she finds his base with all of his equipment. And
that would have been cool.
Yeah. Because you could have still had the part where like like that scene where her, Hunk, and Matt are basically just looking at all the information and figuring out where all the ships are and what they're doing and the transmission code and all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you could have still had all of that happen.
And just be her and Hunk and using his information and tech. I think it really lessened the impact and weight of a beautiful scene. That's my only gripe.
Right. That's kind of what I was getting at with like how strong are the stakes at this point? Because none of the characters have died. So I would like to see the stakes raised a little bit more in season 5, but I still think the show does an excellent job with that character development, regardless of having nobody die.
Mm-hmm. But as I said, I think it's coming, and I think it's going to be a major thing, and I think that was probably put in as a placeholder just to prepare people for the possibility.
Absolutely. So, like I said earlier, we got to move on to the next show.
Yeah, that's what I was getting ready to say. I know you want to wrap this up.
So, I personally highly recommend it. It's 34 episodes of fantastic animation, fantastic acting, and fantastic storytelling. If you're a fan of the original or haven't watched it at all, or do like anime/cartoon shows, 100% check it out. It's definitely worth your time. Josh, would you agree with that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, you probably could have gathered that by now. I mean, I've been a Voltron fanboy since I was 8 years old. That's how old I was when it debuted in the United States. Yeah. So quit doing math, people. I
was gonna say, if I go, do you recommend it? And you just hold up a Voltron toy.
Do I recommend it? I mean, that was my Christmas present from my wife. So. I mean, yeah, I absolutely 100% recommend it, and don't compare the new to the old. It's like, I hate that attitude of, but this, no, it's not the same. It's not supposed to be the same.
No, it's not.
I don't want it to be the same. I like that it's different, but I like how it pays homage to the source material, yet is its own thing and is exciting and is not like Monster of the Week. I absolutely recommend it for anyone who's a fan of big robots, anyone who is a fan of like Interstellar, Galactic Wars, anybody who is a fan of the original, definitely check it out. But overall, it's just really solid, good storytelling.
Yeah. I agree. Okay, so Voltron gets a big thumbs up from both Josh and I. The next show we are going to talk about, as I mentioned at the top of the show, the Magic Schoolbus Rides Again. This is not a remake, not a reimagining, but a full-on sequel to the 1994 show that was on PBS that ran for a few years. I don't remember. Anyway, regardless, the original show was a science show that took the idea of magic to kind of exemplify how certain things work in science. The way that the show would do that would be that Miss Frizzle who is the teacher of I think, fourth grade class, somewhere in there. She would take them to wherever she needed to show them the science or history. And it was one of the things that I really enjoyed when I was younger, because I was a huge science fan, and it resonated with me to see how certain things worked on like a molecular level, or seeing other kids kind of interact with it, even though it wasn't really that way. I loved the books. I loved the cartoons. So when they announced that they were doing a new series, I was like, this is going to be really cool. However, at 34 years old, I don't think that it's even remotely made for me. However, the first episode totally was made for me. When Lily Tomlin did Miss Frizzle back in the day, she makes she was the teacher. She was Miss Frizzle. When the show starts now, Miss Frizzle kind of hands the keys over her to little sister, voiced by Kate McKinnon, who does a fantastic job. But we as adults who maybe are watching this with kids, or some of that effect, who watch the original, go, hey, that's really cool. That's a nice homage to me, who enjoyed the original series. Kind of like a passing of the torch, so to speak. That being said, the theme of the show and the way that it works is 100% no different than the original. Like, it is almost note for note. Arnold is still the kid that's kind of like, I don't know about this. They did add a new girl to the class. She's like a robotics genius. But other than that, it is like note for note, almost identical. I'm trying to think of something else to add to the like what the show does. Because something that Miss Frizzle did back in the original show was let the kids ask questions, and then she would do a thing that led to them asking more questions, which is something that I do all the time. I ask way too many questions. The new Miss Frizzle does the same thing. I do have a theory in my head that she's not human, that the Frizzles are not human as a species, that they actually took over the Earth years ago, and they're teaching us science based on what they've learned by dissecting us. That's just a running theory that I have in my head.
That's a little dark, but I like it.
I didn't need to hear that today.
I've heard theories that she's a Time Lord too. So I mean,
yeah, I would go with Time Lord, but like what she can do, Time Lords can't do.
Exactly.
Like, so
The time travel.
The only thing she can do, a Time Lord can do, is time travel, but she can also shrink down to molecular level. She can fly. She can go in space. Like, that was actually really funny. There was an episode where they went to space and dealt with satellites and space junk. But then, like, in the last episode, they go to like the super low, deep parts of the sea, and all of a sudden the bus can't handle it. And I'm like, this seems odd that it can handle space but not deep sea.
I think they just, of course, use that as to illustrate the actual real life dangers of being at that depth. So the pressure's up to 26 elephants now. I like how they measured in elephants.
Yeah. That was something that I really appreciate about the show, was that it still taught the importance of certain aspects of science while not giving too poops.
Too overly informative.
It wasn't totally. Yeah. It was.
Yeah.
But it didn't care about continuity. Is my point.
Yeah.
They were like whatever gets the point across, because it's a Magic School Bus. I just like overanalyzing things and adding things where there's not. So, just watching the show, I'm like, how can it shrink down to the size of an atom, but can't go uphill in snow and calculate at the same time? This seems weird.
Yeah, and of course, at the end of each episode, Kids calling the Magic School Bus, and they're asking questions about that particular episode. And they say, well, we simplify it for the show. And of course,
Yes.
that's what they're doing.
Yeah, like when they went into the brain and showed synapses running across brain noodles, as they called them. There's no actual visible electricity, but that's what's happening. If for the show's sake, they showed it as like giant bright pieces of light traveling along. It's like, well, no. And the other thing they kind of showed that I thought was really interesting was the synapse relay race.
Mm-hmm.
And they were showing the kids kind of moving at a certain pace, and it's like that pace happens at such a fast rate that you can't measure it in that fashion. So,
yeah.
But for the sake of the show, and I really do like how they brought Lily Tomlin in. It was, you're going to do the voiceover at the very end of each episode, kind of clarifying things. I loved that. That was easily like the part of the episode that I look forward to the most.
Oh yeah.
Maybe it's because nostalgia, but I also like the clarification stuff.
That's cool. Yeah, see me, I had never ever seen an episode of the Magic School Bus ever. I mean, when that show debuted, I'd already graduated high school. I was going into my first year of college, and I never saw it. Never did. I'd heard of it, but I'd never seen an episode. So when you mentioned it, I was like, huh, Magic School Bus. It must be something because you watched it as a kid. But I didn't have a problem watching that. It's what we do. Sometimes we're going to watch things that we normally wouldn't be interested in. So I sat down.
I'm interested to get your viewpoint on it because you have no nostalgia.
Yeah, I had no viewpoint whatsoever. So I watched it and I was like, all right, this is a fun little show. It's great. I think it would be great for kids, especially kids my daughter's age. She's 10. I watched the first 3 episodes a couple of nights ago. And then last night, I was like, all right, I'm going to watch, about 5 or 6 more episodes tonight, and I'll finish through the last 3 or 4, whatever, in the morning, which is what I did earlier today. And I thought it was cool. Each kid, there's 8 kids and the new teacher, and they've got this bus. And I like how they incorporated scenarios, how they worked in the things that the kids would be interested in just to learn these facts about things. I like how they focused on one particular thing per episode. I thought it was really cool and engaging in a way for a child. It'd be fun. Not something that I would ever find myself wanting to watch at all. And after I watched about 3 episodes, I was getting ready to start episode 4 last night. Madison was here, and I said, hey, why don't you sit down and watch this with me? She was like, what? I was like, sit down. She's like, why are you watching that? I was like, because I'm watching it for the podcast. It's like, sit down and watch it with me. This is, something aimed right at you. And I didn't know that she had seen the original. Apparently, they watch it at her school.
Yeah. We even watched one episode of one of the first weeks of school, and it was the one where, what was her name? I don't know. The girl loses her frog, Bella. And it just says, Bella! Every time, and it's annoying.
Oh. Anyway.
When I was your age, Madison, your age, a little bit older, a little bit younger, somewhere in there, there were 2 different, besides Magic School Bus, there were 2 other science-based shows that were built for kids. There was Bill Nye the Science Guy.
Bill Nye the Science Guy.
Oh, yes. You know exactly what I'm talking about. Okay. I adored that show. It was every day at 3:00 in the afternoon. It would come on PBS, and my brothers and I would just Bill. It was the thing. And the other one was a Saturday morning science show called Beekman's World. And out of the 3, I'd say that Bill probably resonated the most because it was that wacky humor. But Magic School Bus was definitely a close second. I know that my little brother liked Magic School Bus more. And I think the important thing when it comes to science or history with children, or just younger people in general, is to an extent that interactivity. And these shows would try to make science fun or make history fun. And I think Magic Schoolbus does that really, really well.
I agree.
I think when you have the children in the show basically figuring out the problems alongside the kid watching, that will have an effect. Like I said, like the new show and the old show are really not that different at all. There was the episode with I can't think of the kid's name, but when he turns out to be allergic to pollen.
Carlos,
thank you. Yeah. He I remember sitting there watching it as a 34-year-old man going, he's allergic. He's allergic to something on the rat. I don't know.
That's exactly what I was thinking. Yeah.
Like kids, he's allergic. It's allergy. All right, well, you'll figure it out, I guess.
Yeah. Oh, look, we're stuck to a nose hair, shrinking down and going inside of his circulatory system and everything, and getting into his immune system. I thought that was cool. But I think it was really well done. I think for kids, it's a perfect little vehicle to get them more interested in science and how things work. My favorite 2 episodes out of that was the Weather versus Rock, the comic book episode, which was amazingly well done. And the one that followed right after that, what was that? Was that the Magnetite episode? That one was really cool too.
Yeah, I think so.
But I thought it was really well done. But Madison, what was your first thought when you saw the intro?
My first thought was when I first saw Miss Frizzle's sister, I thought that was still Miss Frizzle from the old show, and I was like, I don't like her with her hair down. I didn't like it.
She's like, I don't like Miss Frizzle now. I was like, you've not even watched it yet. I was like, don't be an Arnold, because I had already seen the first 3 episodes, and I was like, don't be an Arnold.
I don't like change.
But what did you think after you watched what little bit you did get to watch?
I like how there was more modern technology than the last show. Like, they were using tablets instead of just pulling up random pictures or whatever they did.
According to my research, you mean Google?
Yes, Google.
Yeah, because the original show was out like before the internet was a thing, and so like just one of the kids is like, I have an encyclopedia. Like, well, all right.
What else? Give us some more thoughts.
It was better animated.
See, and that's actually, before you continue, Madison, that's actually something that has been a hot contention online on Twitter and Facebook about this show, is that a lot of the adults who watched the show as a kid don't like this animation at all. So, well, it's fascinating to me, Madison. But Madison, you make a very good point, something that I'll probably use in an argument down the road with is, as a child, the animation style of things isn't as important. And you actually liked the animation. Would you say that you like the animation of the old show too? Okay, well, there you go. All right, see, that's okay. Perfect example. Like, things change, and some adults need to get a grip on that. So, no, that's awesome, Madison. Thank you for that.
But I will accept one thing: that the animation.
Well, what do you think of the new, younger Miss Frizzle?
I like how her necklace changes in episodes. Like how the old Miss Frizzle's bottom half of her dress changed.
Mm-hmm. Well, they keep that trend up in this one too.
I noticed the dress. I didn't notice the necklace. That's good eye on that.
I was sad that Phoebe left to go to her old school. She was my favorite character.
Yeah,
I noticed. I have a cat.
But overall, do you think that is a show that kids your age would enjoy and mind watching to learn things from.
Yes. 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 Puff, do you agree?
He's a cat. He's just like, give me a lap to lay on.
Yes, I agree.
But that's good because, you know, it's not aimed at people my age or Greg's age. It's aimed at people your age because what grade are you in?
5th.
What grade did she say the kids were in now?
5th.
So it's perfect for you. And one of the episodes that I watched last night after you went to bed, or maybe it was this morning, I can't remember, was they had to do, what was her name? Was it Jyoti?
Yeah,
the new girl?
Jyoti.
Was she the one that was doing the 3-in-1 gizmo, how it goes?
Yes. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
They ended up covering states of matter. And that is exactly what you just started studying in science class.
That's a super fun episode.
It was. So maybe after a while you can watch it.
No.
No.
I have homework.
Yeah, you need to go and start on that. Is there any other thoughts that you would like to add about the Magic Schoolbus Rides Again before you go start on your homework?
Perfect.
You're good?
No.
Would you recommend it?
Yes.
Who would you recommend it for?
Sleep.
Who would you recommend the show for?
I'd recommend the show for cats.
Okay.
So they could start getting an education.
The cats don't need no education.
Yes, they do.
Would you recommend? Be serious here. Would you, you silly girl? Would you recommend it for other kids your age and other kids around, you know, a little younger and a little older?
Yes.
So it's a good show for kids overall, is what you're saying.
Yes.
Good deal.
And cats.
Okay, and cats.
They need to learn.
Okay.
They can't have no education in this world. They need to start learning their science.
Well, when they can worry about that when they can get jobs and pay rent. All right. Slide over and you go start your homework. Thank you very much for your input. It helps to have, you know, it helps to actually have somebody your age for that show that's aimed for to talk about it.
What are the other shows?
Shows for the next one, we're actually going to review a stand-up special that I actually watched last night. No, not Mr. Bean. Mr. Bean's not a stand-up special. That was a British skit show done by Rowan Atkinson back in the 90s, which was awesome. But we're also going to do Stranger Things. And that's something that we haven't watched yet, and you can watch it with Mommy and Daddy. How's that?
What's the
I just said it, a stand-up special in Stranger Things. All right, go do your homework. Put that down.
No.
You threatened me with a steak knife. I'm a battered father here.
One of the things I wanted to add about one of my favorite things about the show is actually the theme song. I thought Lin-Manuel Miranda did an amazing job with that theme song.
Who did the theme song?
Lin-Manuel Miranda. He's responsible for the entire Hamilton play and almost every single song in Moana.
Okay, cool.
He is doing a lot right now. Like, the fact that he had time to do the theme song for this show is incredible. And I love that he made it his own, but still made it, like, sounding similar to the original show. So, like, I really, really appreciate that about him doing that. But yeah, no, I think it's an excellent show for kids to learn proper science, but also have fun while watching a cartoon. I really appreciate Madison's input. I'm going to use that when I talk to somebody else about the show, because a lot of what I saw on the internet when the show was announced was like pictures of the show saying, "Stop this type of animation. It's lazy. It looks like Family Guy." And like we talked about this last week or last episode with Big Mouth. You know, like it's crazy to me that people have such a strong distaste for certain styles of animation that they can't. Like, it's weird to me that some people would sit there and go, well, I'm not going to watch a show because it's based on an anime or it is an anime. It's like, what in your mind says I don't want to enjoy a story because it's in this particular medium? I do not understand that, but
I don't either, man. I really don't. But, you know, the people that are dismissing it purely for that standpoint, I think they're missing out. I mean, because you see, she likes it. That's the target audience, and that's all that matters in the end.
Yeah. I think I chose it primarily because of my nostalgia, but I also wanted to touch on the fact that you like the adults that are complaining about the animation style, you're not the audience. And you're not going to be the audience. So stop trying to pretend that you deserve some better animation for a cartoon that's not even targeted to you. Like, straight up.
I don't even think the animation is bad at all. I mean,
neither do I.
It's
simple. They use Flash.
It's simple, but it's kind of along the lines of more popular animation styles that are out there these days.
Absolutely.
It's what kids are used to, and it's what they like.
Yeah, I 100% agree. So, like I said, I highly recommend it for anybody who's trying to get their kid to watch some science-based show. I
recommend some of the parents of those kids to watch those science shows.
Maybe they should do a show on vaccinations.
Not flat earthers or anti-vaxxers at all.
It's just Frizzle going looking at the camera. Hey, parents who think the Earth is flat, you're stupid. Kenneth's not even doing a voice.
Herd immunity is a thing.
Oh boy! All right. So I think that's going to be. We both recommend it for your kids, for adults who want to watch a show that's for kids, that's fun and still engaging.
And for families, you know, it's a great parent-child show to watch together. It really is.
Yes. That being said, guys, that is going to conclude our second episode of All Queued Up. Next week we are going to be watching not next week. I keep doing that because I'm part of the other podcast on the show that's weekly.
Yeah, this one's bi-weekly.
But for the next episode, we are going to be talking about Patton Oswalt's new stand-up special and season 2 of Stranger Things. Josh here hasn't watched either season 1 or season 2, which he will be soon.
I'm looking forward to it.
So we'll probably touch on season 1 as well. But guys, that is going to do it. Josh, where can they follow you on the internet?
They can follow me at nsabanur76 on twitch.tv and on Twitter. But those are the two places that I'm most often located and easily reached.
Also, our Twitter accounts are above our heads or below. I don't remember where.
Yeah, I think they're below on the overlay.
Yeah, they're down here. They're right. There you go.
So,
but yeah, you can follow me at this Twitter account. That's where I make 99% of my posts. I don't use Facebook that often at all, and Instagram is a almost long gone thing. So Twitter, follow me on Twitter. I do stream every Saturday on Half Empty Energy Tank. That's twitch.tv/Half Empty Energy Tank. I will be doing more streams on my personal channel, just because, well, I'm not going to be a part of Half Empty anymore for very long. But that's not for this podcast. Point is I also do video game reviews on the Mission Start podcast. We'll have a link in the description down below. My most recent one was on Destiny 2. I'll be writing one shortly for Cuphead, alongside Golf Story and since I have a Switch now, and the new South Park game, Fractured Butthole. Giggity. I just did a Family Guy joke.
Got my copy today. Where I pre-ordered it also came with a digital copy of Stick of Truth. So,
oh, there you go. That's 2 in 1. But yeah, guys, again, that's going to do it all. One of the things that we did for this podcast is create a YouTube or a Twitter account. The Twitter account, which give me 1 second here.
Yeah, I gave it a follow the other day.
Yeah, I created it during the first, like when we recorded the first podcast, and so I totally forgot to say anything.
Oh, that's okay. It's all queued up. It's at Queued Up Podcast.
Yep, at Queued Up Podcast. So if you follow them, I'll be posting every episode as it comes out for that. If Josh or I do something aside from streaming or reviewing something, like if we do something special, I'll definitely try to promote it within that Twitter account as well. But guys, again, that's going to do it. Thank you for listening. If you made it through the podcast, kudos to you, because it's just two guys talking about shows. That's all it is. But again, if you guys have shows you would like us to talk about, if you want to be a part of this podcast, send either of us a message on Twitter. DM anybody at, well, Anthony or I at Mission Start Podcast. Let us know, and we'll be in contact with you to see if we can get somebody else on the podcast. The only qualifications to be on the show are have, like, whatever shows we're talking about, you have to have watched it in its entirety, and just be a good conversationalist. I think that's ultimately what that's about. So again, guys, thank you, and we will see you next time.
Later, everybody. Take care.